Tommy Tabahia, aka Ummagawd, is part of what I'm starting to think of as the second generation of FPV pilots. He wasn't there in the super early days, but he was there as a lot of the big technological changes were happening. Most people nowadays know who he is. They just know he's Ummagawd. He's an innovator. He films. He is one of the ones. He's a legend. But it wasn't always that way. And we talk a lot about his intro into FPV and what he found at the time. I think you're really going to enjoy this. If you like what I do, like, subscribe, and if you really like these, then you can get the podcast and the unedited complete version on my Patreon page. Give it a look. All right, we're going to get into this right after our sponsor. See you guys in a little bit. You're staring at one of the tallest buildings in the world. Are you afraid? Ground control frames. Freestyle like you mean it. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the Michael Rollins Show, and you are here with the one and only Ummagawd. How you doing, buddy?
Doing all right, man. How you doing?
I'm doing well, man. It's so good to have you on.
Happy to be here.
Obviously, you have an incredible perspective on the FPV industry, but from a purely selfish perspective, all of the interviews I do with you are fantastic, and they get lots of views.
Well, that's good. People are still interested. That's great.
Yeah. Well, but you know what though? I've noticed in a lot of your new videos and whatnot, you're not putting out like a constant stream of content, and I feel like it's still doing well.
And that's exactly what I was like, oh gosh, because I've just been so busy with everything else going on that like putting out content, which is something that I really like to do. It actually eats away at me when I can't. Like I feel like, and I do worry about that if I'm not constantly feeding the algorithm, if you will, the algorithm will forget about me. But I'm glad that the outside perspective is positive, because tell you what, from in here, I feel like I'm dying. I feel like it's slipping. I'm like, don't go anywhere.
Yeah, and I mean the crazy thing, and this is sausage stuff, but a lot of people get wrapped around the axle about the algorithm. Is the algorithm going to forget me? And I work for an artificial intelligence machine learning company, and I'm here to tell you that if you are a performer, they will put you up. Because the only thing the algorithm is designed to do is to make them money. And so if you draw the audience and they have advertisers that want to sell to your people, you'll do just fine. So
I'm glad, because I definitely am not putting out as much content as I would like. And it's funny too, is like, and I'm sorry to derail this. I know this.
You're fine. You're fine.
But so I've been doing just head deep with all of these these shoots and stuff. And initially I'm just very naive, but I'm like, oh, this is going to be great content. I can make BTS. I can show behind the scenes. I can show what it's like. No. What? There's like a certain circle where like that is just a big time no. It's super unprofessional to do so. And even like sometimes even after it airs, like you can't show anything, which sucks because like, in the FPV realm, it's all about sharing like, what you've done and stuff like that. And yeah, it kills me, man. It just kills me because, and then here's the other thing, like sometimes they'll take like the worst parts or just a couple of snippets of this bigger picture. And I'm like, well, what about the stuff you didn't use? Like the FPV community will love this, but nope, not allowed to show it. So it's kind of like, it sucks.
It is, it's funny because I have, hearing from you and from some of the other guys, especially the whole crew that you guys have formed. Yeah, it's like talking to Benoit Fink, and he's like, man, I've done some amazing stuff. I just can't show it.
Yeah. And the worst part is like, I've done some amazing stuff. I can't show it. And I don't even know if you will ever see it because at the end of the day, it's up to the editor, the director, the client, whoever, to decide if that shot's going to be in there. Because you and I can think the shot is amazing, but if it doesn't fit the narrative, if it doesn't fit the feel, the vibe, if it doesn't add to the story, or worse yet, like the one I get a lot is like, this is a great shot, Tommy, but like I feel like it really takes away from what we're trying to tell here. And I'm like, come on, man.
Come on, I'm the star, damn it. It's my job.
Yeah. You really do feel like an actor that you're trying to, get your time in there. But yeah, that's kind of what that side is, and it is what it is, and I'm very happy and blessed that I'm doing it because I love it. I wish I could share more of it, but I can't, so.
Well, what I will say, and hopefully this encourages you a little bit, is the stuff that you have been putting out is so well made and so well put together. I don't typically sit down and watch FPV content as much anymore. And especially not really long FPV content. And your videos come out and I watch them. And because they're good.
Thank you. I really appreciate that. It's because I have kind of told myself, I'm like, you know what? Quality over quantity. I'm not going to try to just keep putting something out on the regular just to feed the algorithm. I want to put something out that I'm like proud of and spend a lot of time on and all that other stuff. So I really thank you. I appreciate that.
No problem, man. And it's funny because I'm doing the same thing, right? Like I could or should have just kept feeding the algorithm, but I was like, I don't want to burn out. I want to enjoy this.
Yeah.
And so that is what takes us into our current topic, which is I am going to dig into the history of FPV. And so, I'm not sure what order this will air in, but you are the first one that I will be talking to. And I feel like you're a great place to start because I feel like there's a lot of folks that are in the distance past that they're just not here anymore, right? They don't fly.
Yeah, and no, I know what you're talking about. And it's kind of tough to talk about history without mentioning them because they, to be honest, kind of laid the groundwork for what everybody is kind of enjoying today. And but that could also just be a whole episode on itself.
Oh yeah. Well, but I mean, you talk about guys that are super influential, like Blackout, right? Like no one's heard from him at all since 2014, even people that know him personally.
Wow.
Nobody knows what happened to him. And then guys like Metal Danny and Jews and some of the other, or Juz, I don't know, probably shouldn't say Jews. Yeah. He you just don't see them anymore. And you specifically, and a lot of guys that came up with you you're kind of the bridging point, right? Because you were around back then, but I think they go back further if I'm correct, right?
Oh yeah, they do. They go way back. I don't know how far into this history you want to go, but like they go back when a mini quad was like a 10-inch quad.
10-inch quad, yeah.
Yeah, this is like mini quad. It's like, and it's funny because we've come full circle. At least I have. We've come full circle on that because like the quads that I fly for set and shoots is like, these big old 9-inch quads. I'm like, wow, like we worked so hard to get away from this, and here we are. We're back at this again.
But if like you were saying, if like doing FPV as part of it is to show what you do, like you're carrying red cameras with 8 motors and 9-inch props.
Yeah.
So it feels like an upgrade.
It's an upgrade for sure. Like, I mean, the way they fly now versus how they flew back then is just like super night and day different. I can't imagine anybody wanting to get into it, knowing what it could potentially fly and how they used to fly back then. I think, I mean, you were just wrestling the damn thing the whole time. You're just, that's assuming it stayed in the air. But
yeah, I got in at 2016, and even from then till now, it's like, holy smokes, these things fly like a dream. Right? Like everybody would spend so much time tuning out prop wash, and now you can basically just slap an FC on it and get good enough stability to pass muster most of the time.
Yeah. These days you could put something together and with stock PIDs, it flies great. Like just really at the end of the day, it flies great.
Yeah.
And that just simply was not a thing before.
So when did you get into FPV? How long ago was it?
Oh my God. So are we going to draw the line at FPV, or are we going to talk about like multi-rotors in general? We're going to go FPV?
No. I feel like multi-rotors is the place to start, because and that's the thing that I'm not sure a lot of the modern pilots that didn't exist back then, or they did exist. You know what I mean? Like it wasn't like interestingly enough, and I know this from Sandra Sasson, FPV was on planes first.
Correct.
And Trappy talked about the same thing. So how did you get into it? And we can start with multi-rotors as opposed to FPV.
So I want to say it was either 2012, 2013. I was at Coachella, and I was at one of the festivals, just completely inebriated out of my mind, as any other fellow Coachella person would be. And I remember looking up at the sky, and I just saw, what was an LED light that just moved in these perfect like patterns, and it would stay in one spot. And I had no idea what it was. Of course, at the time I was joking with my friends saying like, yo, these are aliens. I'm telling you, like, right. Nothing that just stays. Because I've never seen a quadcopter before, or a drone or anything like that. And, a couple of days later, like it stuck in the back of my head, and I just had to figure out what that could have possibly have been. And come to find out it was a drone recording like the concerts and things like that. And so then naturally I was just like, well, I love all things that fly. And I just started researching. I was like, oh, so this is a quadcopter, a multi-rotor, and it's something that you could build and you fly it and things like that. And so, my very first multi-rotor was actually this thing called the Ladybird, and it's from a company called Wakera. I don't even know if they're still around.
Oh, yeah, no, I think they're still around.
Are they? Wow. Okay.
I think they might be. I'm not sure. I heard of them. I definitely have run into them in the past. So
I joined every possible forum, where they were talking about quadcopters and multi-rotors, and it was like, okay, you got to start out, you got to learn, because it's expensive to get into this and you don't want to just crash. And everything pointed to buy a Ladybird. It's just, if you guys don't know what the Ladybird is, just think of just the cheapest brushed motor, like tiny little quadcopter. There's no FPV on it, and it was so hard to fly while I did more research on like the bigger stuff. And that was, I'd say that was like 2012, 2013. And I think when I finally decided to make that leap into, building something bigger, it was actually a T-copter from Simplecopter. I don't know if you remember them.
Mm-mm.
No, okay. So, shout out to Matt Hall if you're still around. Mm-hmm. But I built your first big multi-rotor. It was a tricopter. Mm-hmm. And I decided on that because this is all line of sight. So we're not even to FPV yet. And I just figured that having that T-shit would make it easier for me to kind of figure out orientation, right? Yeah. And that probably went for like a good 6 months. And I just kept breaking things because it was just so hard. It's so hard. And I honestly was about to just walk away from the entire hobby until I discovered, I believe it was probably Juzz 70 or one of those guys. And I saw a video, and they were flying it like a fighter pilot. And I was like, how do you do that? Like he's how do you even see from that far, you know?
Yeah.
And then that's when I learned that, like, oh no, you could put these little transmitters on there. It's called FPV. It feels like you're sitting like right on top of the thing. And then that changed the game. After that, I was just reignited. I was like, no, I don't care anymore. I'm going to figure this out. I don't care if it costs me all of my money. I want to do this. And then I would just, for hours on end, would just scour YouTube and forums looking for videos. And then that's when I would run into the fixed wing stuff from like Chappie to the Juz 70 videos from him and Lumineer, because that's like, you know, this was with X Hover before X Hover was his own brand. This was, man, I'm about to name drop a whole bunch of old people. Like if you guys have a chance, go search for Midwest Rob.
There's a lot of people that talk about him.
He was dope.
There's a lot of people, and I still have not gone and found his stuff. I'm gonna make a note. So what was
like if I were to say like, hey Tommy, like what did you model your flying after? I'd say it was after Midwest Rob, because he wasn't about doing tricks or going really fast. He was just all about like these nice smooth lines and just kind of presenting the environment to you in like a really exciting kind of way. And mind you, like this is like a big 10-inch quadcopter, you know, and with like, if y'all think latency, everybody that nitpicks about latency these days, I just laugh because I'm like, you have no idea what latency is, guys. You know,
I ran across this was a while back, but it was right before TBS was releasing whatever their new super low latency thing is. And, you know, these guys were going back and forth about how they could tell the difference between 8 seconds and 4 milliseconds latency and all this other stuff. And I was like, no, you can't. No, you sure can't.
Yeah. No, I mean, like, I'm talking about, you know, back when you had to plug in each channel. Like, here's aileron, plug into flight controller. Here's pitch, you know, here's, throttle, you know, whatever, you know, and it's just, wow. It's we've come a long way.
It's always really interesting to hear where somebody comes from, and hearing from Tommy is pretty incredible. But in the next episode, we get to talk a lot about the gear and how the gear has changed. Because quite frankly, this hobby is nothing without the gear. And this hobby was so much worse because of the gear back in the day. Anyways, I hope that you enjoyed it. If you do like this, give it a like, subscribe, head to my Patreon if you want the uncut stuff. Talk to you soon. Bye.